Prince Michael, from your geopolitical intelligence perspective, how do you see this demographic reversal reshaping global power structures in the next 20, 30 years?
Well, it's sometimes easier to talk about the next 60 years than about the next 20 or 30 years. But what we see that, let's say what the old thinking was the G7, including the European Union, and then maybe Russia and China being the powerhouses. This thinking, I think we have to give up. Demography works totally different. If we see all the, let's say, northern countries, including China, have a strongly declining demography, and the world majority is very clear now in Southeast Asia, South Asia, Africa, and Latin America. The only country which still has a real increase in population is Africa. The world population only grows still because people have a longer life expectancy, which is also quite an economic factor. Now, all our actually economic theories, mostly also the theory which we have in Europe, the welfare state, is based that at a clear replacement of the ages, and that basically we have more young people than old people. This becomes reverse. But it also changes, let's say, the way of political power in the world. And we have seen it actually pretty clearly now in the following of the Ukraine war, when Americans and Europeans wanted countries in the South, in the global majority, to take part. And they were not interested, which is also from their point of view, is somewhat understandable. It's also the way, let's say, influence was generated. We see it again, let's say, in the tension between, let's say, China and the West. And I think China had a little bit of a better understanding of the global majority, because they came there and had very precise projects. Whether they were good or not, I'm not discussing that. From the West, or from the Old West, let's say it always came conditionally. Conditionally that certain changes in the governance, in the way that the countries are ruled. And I think it has to be expected also due to the demographic things, that these countries should really decide on their governance based on their culture and themselves, because they will not simply overtake certain standards which are expected or where investments have strings on. This is, whether we consider it good or not, I think these are basically facts, and therefore demography is extremely important.
Let's dive a little deeper, and let's talk about the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia, because the Kingdom of Saudi Arabia is really looking exactly as doing this. They have this demographic, the changing demography, and they also have the changing landscape of healthcare and the whole system around it. And Dr. Alknawy, you are in charge of planning what's going to happen in demography and healthcare until 2030 in your country. Could you share with us how you deal with this immense, enormous, magnificent work?
Thanks again, Henrique. Truly, the health is essential for everyone. And I think your introduction about the economy of a human being, health is at the center. Unless we have a healthy societies and a healthy human being and a functioning one, when we talk about longevity, it's not going to be of any benefit without really a functioning, healthy societies. With regard to the 2030 vision towards, health and health transformation, it's clearly focus on individuals and as well as vibrant societies. With this, you need a strong foundation for healthcare systems, ensuring that whatever required to ensure a healthy society is there, from public health issues, from environmental issues. It actually covers so much of it. And as well, looking at the next generation of workforce. How can we develop workforce to ensure that we can sustain the growth of these health institutions? And all of these kind of parameters has been really addressed very aggressively by the different, stakeholders within the government. And truly enough, I think it is really shaping up very nicely. You can see that paradigm shift and the ability to put the mindset of people towards this vision has been a very important factor to make sure that all aligned to deliver on these promises. In addition, I think the country has recently launched in January 2024 is the biotechnology strategy. So it's not only looking at developing healthcare sectors, but as well looking at innovations, looking at AI, looking at multiple parameters. And with the biotechnology strategy, it actually sits in 4 pillars. Drug discovery, which looks at new drug discoveries, new directions of drug discoveries where AI and whatever is included, including nanomedicine, for example, and vaccines, and infectious diseases, and gene therapies. The 4th pillar is food, which is again is important for health and ensuring that food is a medicine. So we need to really look at this as a comprehensive solution. And the ecosystem is really being built, and the collaboration between different health governments and other sectors, which is really important for health, is really enormous. And really, we're so pleased to see this going, and this complete transition into 2030 will really show a very clear global help and a global influence, because health has no border. I think Prince Michael has highlighted, health is not something that covers one area. It's actually a human being issue. It is something that it's human to human issues.
Let's switch a little bit, because this is the example of how a reform goes forward. So it's being implemented right now. We in Europe, we have this problem of our reforms not going very well. We have a very high resistance to reform. This is the moment I have to ask Prime Minister Matteo Renzi about his experience, because he reformed the labor market in Italy. Some people would even claim that the recent success of the Italian economy goes back to some or to much degree to his labor market reforms. And it was the only labor market reform that passed in the whole continent of Europe in the last 10 years. So let's ask you, what do we need to change here in Europe to accommodate for a population that lives and works longer, but also has a better quality of life? What are the implications, for example, for our pension systems, for healthcare systems, for career structures?
First of all, thank you so much for the kind invitation. Thank you, Christine. Thank you to everyone. Can I speak frankly?
You have always.
Yes. The problem in Europe is the lack of reforms. My friend, Crown Prince of Saudi Arabia, a great Vision 2030, his boss, and also our friend, the minister. And he had a vision unbelievable, probably one of the most incredible in the history, because in the very short time, a great number of reforms, a lot of money, a time, very important, because in Europe we haven't time. Every time there is election, a new election, a new election, and they change a government, and the problem of politicians who want to be elected. So we have election every 5 years, but we have election in the Instagram, on Twitter, every 5 minutes. In this framework, some countries, as Saudi Arabia, have a great vision for the future of the world, with a perspective and with a framework of very interesting initiatives. Other countries, I don't like, for example, the reforms of President Donald Trump. I don't like this type of reforms because it's very good maybe for the economy, for GDP in USA in the brief time, but this type of reform will create a lot of tensions and troubles around the world. I was in India, in New Delhi, just 3 weeks ago with Prime Minister Modi. And the feeling is maybe GDP will grow in the next years in USA, but the consequences will be the end of soft power of United States of America. And that, in my opinion, is a tragedy, because I'm a great friend of United States of America, and I think that's a mistake. But I have to admit, also, I like the reform of Mohammed bin Salman, because I think is a great vision. I don't like the reform of Donald Trump, but I think that a reform. In Europe, what is the situation of Europe? Zero. You told me I can speak frankly, please. And zero, that is the problem. Because Europe is today in the hands of bureaucratic approach. No vision, no leadership, no hope. And in this framework, the question about demography is the most important. Thinking about Italy, I'm 50. Our prime minister is 48, she is 48. Our leadership is more or less born everyone in the 70s. In the 70s in Italy, we had more or less 1 million of new babies every year. Last year, we had less than 400,000 new babies. Next year, less than 350,000. That is not a decline, this is a collapse. At the same time, let me joke, because I was the youngest prime minister, I'm the youngest prime minister in the history of Italy, and we changed the prime minister very, very quickly, so it's a very good record. When I became prime minister, it's not important record, because I was the first and the second was Mussolini, so the benchmark is not so interesting. But 39 years and 1 month myself, 39 years and 3 months Mussolini, but you continue more time. Okay, we cannot open this discussion. When I became prime minister, 11 years ago, I remember a meeting with a manager of the Ministero dell'Economia, the Treasury, the budget. And I stayed for half a day, one day, to discuss about the single point. I was mayor, so I arrived with the attention about the single detail. You know, when a prime minister check the detail, I know, I know very well what means that. So I try to check, to verify, and a manager of the ministry looked at me, Prime Minister, we have a problem. I look, okay, if we have a problem, not so bad, one problem. No, we have a big problem. What type of problem? Italians live too much. What? Nobody die in this war, in this country. I look, sorry, this is our problem. Yes, because we are the country number 2 in terms of expectation of life. So we have a problem of pension. I look him, I don't think if I go in the TV and I explain, Italians, we have a problem, you have to die now, please, come on, we have the problem of pension. I don't think that is a very good for my consensus. But it's interesting, demography is exactly what could change a country. And I finish because I don't want to be too long, but the question of longevity is the most impactful, maybe at the same level of artificial intelligence. Because it's a radical change in the generation. Is a change for pension? Yes. Is a change for labor market? Yes. When I try to change the labor market, I receive criticism from the far right and from the left. I was a prime minister of the center left, but the unions attacked me for the reform of labor market. We have a problem of, as you explained very well, about healthcare. It's clear. We live more and we want to live better, as Prince Alberto explained before. Every single political issue will change for the change of demography. Also education and culture. Because if we want to live more, to give more years to our life, we have also at the same time to give more life to our years. And that is particularly important. Create opportunities of culture and education. In the time of artificial intelligence, we cannot leave that to the algorithm society. We have to invest also in culture, education. That, for example, in Vision 2030 is a pillar. My conclusion is that I believe longevity is one of the most interesting challenges today for the people. Involve also the food. Where is my friend Norma? Yeah, is in the one of the best chef, Italian chef, is here. Food is not simply a part of the day. Food is a part of the soul of a country, but at the same time is a pillar of the construction of new society. When we host Expo in Milano in 2015, the relation between healthcare and longevity was one of the clear points. But I believe we need more attention from politics, because if you think about Europe, nobody speaks about that. Why? Because it's not sexy, because it's not cool, because we haven't very viral reels if we discuss about longevity. Nobody wants to discuss about longevity. You became old, yes. Better than alternatives, as Woody Allen explained very well. Absolutely better than alternative. But that is not very good for populistic debate. So thank you so much, because we hosting a meeting about that is important. Now we have to write in the agenda of European politicians the priority about demography and the priority about longevity.
Mr. Prime Minister, we have one problem.
Only one?
Yes.
You are not Italian.
Are we ready for that? Are we, and when I say we, I mean especially the continent of Europe, are we ready for that, what you just said?
No.
And what do we need in order to get ready?
Come back to politics. Come back to have a vision. What is today the great problem of Europe? Europe, I'm a great fan of Europe. I dream United States of Europe. This is my feeling. But Europe, also because my grandfather did the war, make the war in Greece, and the other grandfather make the war in France. Now, the only war possible against Greece or France is in Champions League or World Cup. And that is great, because in the three generations, everything changed. That was the most important challenge for a lot of leaders and the great founders of European Union. But in the last 20 years, we lost that. Just a number, because we are in the forum and we have to discuss about numbers. Europe lost every type of credibility and leadership, and at the same time, we lost every type of competitiveness. Look the number about GDP. USA and EU in 2007, so some weeks before Lehman Brothers. The GDP value of USA in 2007 was $14 trillion, more or less, 2007. GDP of European countries in 2007 was $14 trillion. The same point to start. In 2024, the numbers of GDP in USA was $29 trillion, more or less. The GDP of Europe is $17 trillion. And in the next 6 years, until 5 years, until 2030, 2040, 2050, with the very important push in the American economy, also thanks to the reform of President Trump, the GDP of USA will arrive easily to 40 trillion, sorry. Europe not. And we have a problem of demography, and we have the problem of infrastructure. But, my friend, if you ask me, are you ready? Not for a problem of economy, of infrastructure, because there is no the awareness, there is not the capacity to understand. That is the priority. There is not a vision to give European citizens, please, come on, wake up Europe. paradoxically, the crisis of USA, thinking about what happened, we discussed just some minutes before, if America decided to attack the European researchers, European brains, European talents, that is not so bad for our friends in America, but it's wonderful for us. We can study a plan to come back the brains. Thinking about fiscal incentives, about investment in the infrastructure, in the universities, that is the priority of Europe. Who speaks about that? Blah, blah, blah in a meeting, but there is not a good point for social media, for Instagram. So it's not important because we have a generation of influencer at the power, not a generation of politician. I need politician come back to lead Europe. This is the only way because Europe could come back. If not, we will have a competition between all the countries and there will be very good spectators.
Apparently something is resonating in this public. Competition and cooperation, I think that's an important issue here because any economic development has been weaponized by humankind so far. The tulips and pork bacon, pork belly, and high tech and artificial intelligence. What do I mean by that? At some point, no matter what product, no matter what service, at some point, some country said, I want to be the world leader in the production of that, and I want to sell my product to everyone, and I want to impose my standards to everyone. It happened with everything. Arguably, it's happening now with the economist Donald Trump as president of the US. Some countries want to impose their ideas of artificial intelligence on other countries, like, for example, the European Union. Is it possible that something similar will happen here in the longevity sector, that some countries will try to aspire to be the pacemakers, which is a positive development, but at the same time will try to impose their idea standards and supply chains on others? Or less polemically asked, what is the balance between cooperation and competition in this sector? Dr. Alknawy, you are the only person who comes from the medical sector. Maybe you have a special insight here.
I think cooperation is the way. It's not in a healthy competition. I guess at the end it will benefit everyone who's going to be there because it is something that globally will be influencing this. I think we have a lot of issues related to longevities. Let's talk about how do you measure ageism. We don't know how to do it. We talked, I guess, in the first day and about biomarkers. Do we have real biomarker? How do you measure longevity? Unless we have biomarkers, unless we know how to do it, we will not be able to develop any interventions, i.e. medications, food, environments, whatever. These issues are very critical when it comes to health. Sometimes we are really busy developing health institutions, how to do surgeries, how to do stem cell transplants, how to do many other things. But going back to looking at prevention and maintaining health, and I think it's very important to talk about maintenance of health. And maintenance of health is all kind of things in it. With that, you'll be able to function. For example, if I give you muscle failures, when people grow older, they get difficulties with muscles of getting up, walking, trying to be active, trying to do all of this. We don't know how to measure muscle failures. The other thing in longevity, I think each organ ages differently within the body. So we need to as well address this, not the whole age, but I think each organ has its own parameters of aging. And understanding this, developing this will be better. I have quite a bit of interest in, what's called sarcopenia, which is, losing muscle strength. And this really very, very important. This will affect economy a lot because you will not have a functioning person, you will not have people going to work or doing things and all of this. And when muscle fails or start to fail, as well, the brain start to be affected because people will get withdrawn, they will become isolated, they will all kind of things, cascades with this. So I think it is essential to cooperate and to compete in a way that we reach to resolutions or solutions with this. I think artificial intelligence will forecast this better and as well, maybe speed up some of these potential discoveries. And getting good brains to work together, mention about, intelligent, human being working on these issues, I think is not easy. And unless we have kind of a big movement towards this and really putting this as an agenda, not an agenda to live longer, but to really look at the measures of how to live longer and take it from there. And from that aspect of health and managing health systems, it's sometimes we see people at the end, but we don't see it at the beginning. And of course, this will advance our ability to as well grow from the GDP point of view and making economies better, because you will have people who are really not only functioning physically, but as well from a mental point of view, from brain, from intelligence, from enthusiasm and capabilities are as well going to be improved.
It's interesting what you say. So the medical science and economics looks at competition and collaboration as more or less the same. Indeed, competition is a form of collaboration. It's just trying to find out the best way to do something. Prince Michael, I know that you are an economist by training, but I also know that you are a geopolitically interested person. In politics, sometimes competition is the contrary to collaboration. Do you see competition, political competition is in a more bad way coming up here in longevity, or quite generally in the, let's say, a global race or even war for medical talents and medical resources?
Well, there might be, but I think it is, like in all science, the collaboration is extremely important. And competition can also enhance collaboration. I think this is not a contradiction. This is one side, but I would also like to come back to something which Prime Minister Renzi said before, and two things about bureaucracy and about the problem people are living too long. We have indeed in Europe a problem of old age payments. We have a huge problems because these payments are not covered. But I think we have structural problems, which are also problems of leadership and problems of denial. We don't talk openly about that. We talk about debt figures which don't represent the real debt figures because we don't include the obligations we have for healthcare costs and for retirement costs. And I think what would be needed, and there I'm coming also back to think, we need to address that in a way that we come back from certain bureaucratic things. I think it would be, and healthy longevity will be very successful if we give up one thing, this idea one has to retire with 65 and make place for younger people. So if we are healthier, we can work longer. And we should also give the chance, let's say, it's very difficult for somebody who is 50 years old to change profession. But it should be possible, and they could work because, you know, you might have been an accountant till 50, and then you think you want to be something else. You have a problem here in Europe. I think this would need a changing. It would need, and this is true, also Prime Minister Renzi said, a question of leaderships. We need more leaders who risk to lose elections. And I think, for instance, your labor reform was not always popular with everybody. And I think what also Chancellor Schröder did in Germany it was also actually a reform on social system and labor system, from which Germany profited the next 17 years, the whole time of Merkel through. He also lost the elections. And I think the question is, and we need politicians who are risking to lose elections.
Prime Minister Renzi, please continue.
But I think
I lost. So.
Just a moment. But this doesn't answer of collaboration and competition. And I think we should have not maybe say, like Mr. Trump says, but we should say, yes, our country first, but we collaborate with the other ones.
I want to talk to Prime Minister Renzi about not about the collaboration, we're coming back to collaboration, but about the other thing that you mentioned. Should Italians work until they are 75? And you know that this is a trap question, don't you?
No, what... I think that Italy is Italy is a great country. Italy is a country with a strange narrative. For example, economy. Everyone for the last 25 years used to say Italy was a big problem. I remember when I became prime minister, I received a call from President Obama, a call of the first call, please, best wishes, good luck, etc., etc. They told me, you risk to become as Greece. And everyone think about Italy as the great problem of Europe. That is not true. Italy is a country with the second capacity of private savings in Europe. We have a problem of public debt, but we have a huge level of private savings, second only to Germany. Italy was a country, I remember a discussion with Chancellor Merkel, because Chancellor Merkel, she was a great leader, but she was very used to work a problem and then another problem. And I have on my table 25 problems every day. And she looked at me, no, we have to solve the problem of Greece. We have to solve the problem of migration. Then we discuss about that, but I have Greece, migration, economic crisis. What happened? In the time of relax, Italy is a problem and the other countries seems very good. Germany is a driverless car, fantastic, in time of relax. When there are some problems, Italy is the best because we are used to live in the chaos time. We are expert of chaos. Thinking about what happened in the last years, about Italy, about Europe, the Prince remember the question about Germany. Germany created a business model focused, please, if I say something of wrong, let me know. But we have three business model focused on three pillars. The first is export in China. Car industry, the Germany car industry is very important for us because this is a cooperation, not competition, because the Northeast is totally linked, of Italy, is totally linked to Germany car industry. Car industry in Germany in 2018-19 have the 50% of revenues from China. So we create a business model of Germany focused on the export in China. Energy, very cheap energy from Russia. Second dependence, the first from China for export, the second from energy for Russia. Third, Americans for military issues. And Angela Merkel decided to close nuclear plants. No problem for energy, we have Russia. And at the same time, Ursula von der Leyen did a masterpiece of stupidity, sorry, it's my opinion, who was the Green Deal, because Green Deal moved the manufacturing from Europe to India, China, because we reduce emission. No, we don't reduce emission, because if the same plant will open in India and in China, emission will be bigger. And the planet is the same. There is not borders in the planet for emissions. So we destroy ourselves. of course, Trump arrived, 5% of NATO investment, stop with the money, and Germany now is the country with the most incredible investment in military issues. What means that? Italy is considered every time the problem. Now I don't think about Italy, I don't speak about Italy because I'm senator of opposition. So I don't like, I'm very good friend and we grew up together with our prime minister because we have more or less the same age. She's younger than me, please, she's a woman, she's younger than me 2 years. But, and I think wrong or right or wrong is my country. But I think Italy is potentially a great country in the time of longevity. We have places wonderful. We have a south who is not, in the south of Italy, we have a delay of infrastructure unbelievable. That is a problem now, but it's a great asset for the next 10 years. Because if we solve the problem of infrastructure, now there is not problem of legality in the south as 20 years ago, 30 years ago. I remember when the judge were killed in the streets in 90s. Now the mafia is not present in Sicily. The new generation of mafia stop with the killing the people. Maybe is in finance. That is a little problem. But they study in the best universities around the world. That is the reality. So, just to conclude, I believe, if you ask me about Italy, and the question is about Italian role now, I think Italy is not a problem in the economy as a lot of people used to say in the past. I think Italy is potential, a great country in terms of attraction and investment in the longevity era. The only problem we have is the lack of leadership and vision. Because there is not good wind for the boats without a direction. If there is a good wind, but you don't know where is your direction, this is not good wind. And I believe that is the situation of Italy today. Just a last number. Maybe everyone remembered how was impactful and important the crisis of migration in Italy. You remember a lot of articles in newspaper. Okay. I don't think that is a fake news, because it's not a fake news, because a lot of people died, and that is not a fake news, because a lot of problem of criminality became priority in the public debate, and that is not a fake news. But look the numbers. In 2015, Italy welcomed 150,000 people from the sea. Germany, the same year, welcomed 1.2 million of people from Syria and the rest of the world. In 2021, Germany welcomed from Afghanistan 1 million people. In 2022, Germany welcomed from Ukraine 1 million people. Italy, less than 100,000. What is the question? We discuss about immigration, because the agenda setting of far right is we have a problem of immigration. Okay, look the numbers. That is the number of immigration. In the same period, the immigration, the people, particularly talented people, brain people, good people, who leave Italy, who left Italy, were the double of the people who arrive. Our problem is not immigration, it's immigration. And nobody have the courage to say, because this is not politically correct. And here there are a lot of Italians who left Italy. And they don't come back. Why? Because there is not a good fiscal system, a good incentive. Of course, if you decide to stay in UK, you don't stay in UK for the food. This is not food. Please, come on. With all the respect for the British people, this is not food. Norman, are you agree with me, I think? Yes, perfect. Thank you so much. If you decide to leave Italy, it's not for the quality of life, because the quality of life is not so bad in Italy, not so bad. If you leave it because there is not the ecosystem. And at the same time, there is not an ecosystem in the financial sector in Europe today. Venture capital, we discussed before, is great in USA, is unbelievably unfit in Europe. So I spoke too much because I'm an Italian politician, but the question is, in this time, Italy could play a role as a leader of Europe, and unfortunately, that is not in the soul of our prime minister, because she came from an experience against Europe. She is a far right. She wanted to leave Euro 10 years ago, and so okay. She's good in terms of day-by-day administration. Nobody have a problem today with Italy. Also because if you look France, that is the problem, not Italy. But the real that is we solved the problem with the Zinedine Zidane and Leonardo Gioconda, but the situation in France now is a problem. Materazzi not. And the question about Italy is not the problem for Europe. Could be the solution, but there is not leadership for that.
Okay, thank you very much, especially not thank you very much for the food in Great Britain. I enjoy British cheese a lot. I love British cheese, actually. And I am Swiss.
I love your capacity to invest in globalization. I prefer Swiss cheese, French cheese, Italian Parmigiano. But I think, I don't remember, maybe Churchill used to say, there is not food, there is not food, there is a kitchen. I don't remember the word. I check now in Google and I give the quote of Winston Churchill. But if you love UK for food, you have my admiration. Congrats.
I want to revert to Prince Michael with a question. How do we collaborate internationally in longevity? Do we need an international longevity organization? Do we need a UN agency? Do we need free markets? What do we need?
Well, I think we have actually in the world already quite a few agencies and organizations. I think we need, as we said before, collaboration in this area. It's a very new area, and we have to prepare different sectors. We have to work on the medical and scientific way, but it has also a huge impact on the society. It has a huge impact on the economy. Just looking at the insurance ways, just the way we have to prepare it, as I said before, also on the labor markets. And I think what needs to happen, in my opinion, and for me it's not a question of competition and collaboration, that there is enough information coming out which goes to a much broader part of the public. UK can do it. And I think one of the problems we have is that it is many consider that longevity is something for the well-to-do people, for the rich people, and not for the poorer one. I think we have to come across that and give this information. It is actually there for everybody who is willing. And I think this is also very much an educational thing. And I think the biggest hurdle is that people are willing to do it. And this is, but I think—
People or countries?
I would say people. I think that, let's say, the human love for comfort is pretty global. I think this doesn't matter. But there could be countries, and I think this might be even easier sometimes in smaller countries or medium-sized countries, to clarify people. It's also an educational thing. I would put that, and I think a country who would start with that could have an advantage, for instance, in the educational principle. Actually, nutrition and longevity is interesting, and it could actually start already with smaller children in the primary school. And you know, they learn now all of a sudden of a lot of shenanigans, besides necessary things in private schools like gender, etc. It would be, you know, just explaining them certain things of health which they understand could help, and sometimes children also educate their parents. At least my children did it. And so I think countries should put efforts to get their people to talk about, and not stay in denial, because we are staying in denial about our problems of retirement, about the problem of healthcare costs in an aging population, etc. We are also actually in denial of the problem of reducing demography. And I think we have to give up this denial. And then there might be also a competitive advantage.
Dr. Alknawy, what can we learn from the Saudi experience? One way of collaborating is to learn from each other. So what can we learn from your experience so far in reshaping the whole healthcare sector within the Vision 2030?
Thank you. Maybe I will just follow on Prince Michael's comment with regard to longevity. It's an individual issue. It is everyone's issue. And it is a journey. It is not something that you start somewhere, and it is at all ages. So you need to really look at this together. It is not specific to a country or countries, because I think it is as well has to do with the environment, with the food, and the characters of the climate, and many things related to the societies and the communities. And working, I think, is, you know, if you look at the mental health and the society effect on longevity, it is a lot of population-based research shows that, you know, this is very essential to ensure that you have a healthy body and healthy mind. So from these aspects, I think it is essential to really make this a movement. I think your question, is it going to be a supranational or international societies or whatever? But it should be a journey and a movement from all countries. And I think trying to expand this and champion this in a different way would be a great thing. Going back to your question with learning from whatever is being done, I think I mentioned at the beginning that the Vision 2030 has made people have one clear target and one initiative that everyone collaborates around these issues. The Saudi system with regard to infrastructure of healthcare systems is very strong and capable, and I think we've seen during the COVID how as well this was well maintained and had no certain collapses, and crisis management was clearly managed in a way that is doing very well. Actually, I chaired a group, looked at what things that we have done to ensure that we did very well, and as well this can be sustainable, and ensuring that availability of healthcare system, the development of public health and public health initiatives, climate and environmental issues. I think what is as well has been really a lot of focus recently is developing more research, developing more biotechnology field and life sciences in general, how to deal with this. Again, what is the learned lesson is really putting a clear direction, strategic direction, and getting everyone to see how can they contribute to this strategic direction. And that's what Prime Minister was trying to say, that if there is a political will, there will be a lot of people who will move forward afterwards.
Often political will is not sufficient, but you need money. And whenever you have money, you have the big scramble about who gets how much. How do you in Saudi Arabia prioritize the investments in this aspect?
In disaster?
In this aspect, in the aspects of reforming healthcare, ensuring longevity, and the Vision 2030. How are investments prioritized?
I think they were more related to creating things around individual and human being. So all of these are co-developed in a sense to make sure that these investments are going forward. And diversifying from oil as well has played a major things. For example, in tourism, created so much income, and sports and many other things, I think created a window of opportunities to create more income, not only depending on oil, and that, working with a clear vision as well helps the leaders or the leadership to decide where to go. There is a healthy competition within the country towards, improving standards and ensuring that standards are implementing. But to really prioritize investment, I think it sits around these strategic goals which has been approved. So the government at the end, through the Ministry of Finance, decide every year how to support. And I must say that, the collaboration between the financial, givers or funders is very strong at the government level and the communities, provided that there is an outcome, there is a measure that you're really producing. So I think they take this as more of clear setup of a strategic vision, not necessarily short. And when Vision 2030 started, at least 20 years in advance, created this kind of a direction. And a measure every year has always been there, and that's part of the monitoring process that Vision 2030 created. They do it yearly and as well every 5 years. And with this, they take, they incentivize, people who really have a better, better outcome from their strategies.
Prince Michael, what do we need here in Europe right now to channelize investments, private and public, into longevity?
Well, I think we need to do things. First, a very good communication that people need, that see the interest in that, see also the interest that if we channel in that, if people are healthier, if people can live longer, this can compensate for part of our demographic gap.